Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our roundtable on scholarship success strategies. Before we begin, we would like to honor the Algonquin Nation on whose ancestral lands the university is located. We pay respect to the Algonquin people who are the traditional guardians of this land. We acknowledge their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. We pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. We acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old, and we honor their courageous leaders, past, present, and future. And with that, it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning. My name is Marijke, and I'm Associate Vice-Provost, Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. And we're here to discuss applications, Canada Graduate Scholarship applications, because whether you're applying for these types of scholarships at the master level or at the doctoral level or any other major award for that reason, we know that preparing a successful application can feel overwhelming. And so today we are joined by a professor, an experienced postdoctoral fellow, and a Vanier Scholarship recipient who will share strategies, stories, and insights to help you navigate the process with confidence. So with us today, we have Marcelo Muñoz Figueroa, I hope I pronounced it properly, who is Associate Scientist at the University of Ottawa Heart Institute. He is member of the CIHR Canada Graduate Scholarship National Selection Committee. Welcome, Marcelo, and thank you. Then we have Dr. Damian Gatica Mizalav, postdoctoral fellow at the University of Ottawa Heart Institute, and he has been on the CIHR review committee from 2022 till 2025. And then we have Alyssa Murray, MD, PhD candidate in cellular and molecular medicine at the University of Ottawa, CIHR Canada Graduate Studies Scholarship recipient. Thank you all three for being with us today and for being here. And also thank you to the students who are joining us for this session. So our event will unfold in two parts. First, we will have a 45-minute of discussion with our panelists, followed by 15 minutes dedicated to your questions. And note that we will record the session and we will post it on our website so you can refer back to it when needed. So with that said, I suggest we start with our roundtable and our questions. And so the first question is a question for all three of our panelists. Just a general question to start, like, what sets a winning application apart from just a good one? And Marcelo, maybe you want to start?
Okay, I can start. Can you hear me, Marijke?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. First, thank you very much, everyone, for inviting me. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. As I was introduced, my name is Marcelo Muñoz. I'm an associate scientist here at the Heart Institute. I was awarded my CIHR fellowship 2-3 years ago, and now I'm being part of this committee at CIHR. So I have some experience, a couple of 3 years doing this work. And related to the question, what's an application sets aside or highlights, like it's a good application when you have clear, in my opinion, when you have clear goals. It has happened to from the applications that I have reviewed several times, you can see a lot of people describing what they have done in the past, but never really clear the focus on what's the real goal, what's the purpose for having this fellowship. For example, I can give a couple examples. I remember review a master's student that was amazing, like a lot of work in the lab, a lot of activities, maybe outside the lab too, a lot of leadership skills, but at the end of the application, you didn't have the feeling why was he asking for this fellowship to be a PhD. So when you don't have clear about what's the real purpose, why you are asking this fellowship, if it's a master's or it's a PhD, you lose purpose of why you are applying, and that's when you don't have that goal in mind. I mean, it's losing opportunities on the application.
Okay, thank you very much, Damian.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Marcelo. I think one of the most important parts is the cover letter. You need to state your future plans and the importance of your research for the Canadian population. This is very important because it's the taxpayers that are funding your research, that are funding your grants. So you need to tell them why it's important to pursue, to finance yourself, and what you're going to explore and do researcher. It's very important also, linking a little bit with what Marcelo said, tell them why you want to pursue your PhD. It's okay, I want to do a PhD so I can do this, so I can research that, so I can fix or help people understanding more of this problem. I also think that recommendation letters are very important. So it's important to pick trustworthy references. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. But I tend to agree with Marcelo. The cover letter is key.
Okay, thank you very much. Alyssa?
Hi. Yeah, I also like to agree with what everyone else says. As someone who's kind of sitting on the other side, it's hard to tell what really sets it apart. I feel like these two have a little bit more experience of seeing multiple applications, but that being said, like seeing some of other people's, like reviewing each other's applications, I think that, stating, how your research fits into the greater scheme of things, and also just having a well-written and like well-designed package that you're going to submit to the whoever's reading your application. If you seem like you're a well-rounded candidate, you have a well-written application that is, easy for them to read, doesn't take up a lot of their brain power of trying to understand like where you're going with it. I think that that's really helpful, and I'll probably speak on it a bit more later, but just getting people to review your application and making it as coherent as possible would be helpful.
Yeah. So combined together, clear goals, good cover letter, but making it easy to read, making it very comprehensive, very comprehensible for those who are going to read it, that it becomes very clear, easy to read. Okay, thank you very much. So for our two professor postdoctoral fellows, what do reviewers wish more applicants understood about the application process? Damian, do you want to start?
Sure, no problem. I think I don't know if I'm gonna talk about things that everybody knows, but I think what I would really like for applicants to understand is that pretty much everyone that applies has excellent CVs, and they have excellent recommendations that they have accomplished. They're probably people that accomplish a lot. So you need to find a way to stand out in your application. Why you are I don't know if better, but you're better suited to get this application than other people. Everybody's going to have GPA scores that are really, really high. So it's not going to be your grades, right? It needs to be something else. Your research. And this is why I was telling a little bit about the recommendation that are very important. You need to find people that actually can recommend you very well. Also, something that I kind of feel that applicants should know is that at least as an evaluator, you're going to get like 4 or 5 reviews, and it's very likely that they're going to evaluate you against the other 4, which is not fair, right? But you also get more than one evaluator reviewing your application at the same time. So you need to have a little bit of luck involved. But particularly, I think you need to find a way to stand out, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Marcelo.
Building based of what Dr. Gatica already mentioned is about what I wish students understand when people has been going through the process, you will realize that most of these applications are like 10 pages long. But basically, when they ask you for the grant or the science or the project, it's only 1 page. So that means that the other 9 pages is about you, yourself, what you have done, what you want to be in the future. So as soon as you understand that is promoting yourself, what already has been mentioned, is key. Because especially at the master and doctoral level, most of the people understand that your project is actually not yours, it's basically your lab. So most of that page, that basically your project probably came from, probably you built it. I'm not saying that's you didn't make it, but in an environment that belongs to your professor or your supervisor. So actually what's your real application is those other 9 pages. That's actually people need to pay attention, because that's the core of the application, and the system has been designed for that reason. The application is not based on the project merits. I'm not saying no, it's not important, it's super important, but it's fundamental to focus in the other 9 pages. What you have been done, what you want to be, why the taxpayers funding, actually you are worth to have that money. What you will bring to the Canadian population, what will be the benefits. So that's super important to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Alyssa, I know you're on the other side, but is there anything about the process that you would like to share?
I mean, other than, I think I'll speak on a bit later about like the timing of the application. But I think like it's more work than you think it is. So if you haven't started and you're planning to submit an application, I'd recommend, start now, do a little bit at a time, and go from there.
Yeah, and that ties in nicely with what Marcelo just said, that you need to use the other 9 pages to create this coherent application, that every little piece ties together and every little piece is connected and in a very clear manner. Okay, thank you very much. So again, for the reviewers, from the reviewers' perspective, what are the biggest mistakes that hurt applications? Marcelo, do you want to start?
Yes, I have a couple here ideas, but for me, basically, is not clearly stating why you want the fellowship. That's critical for me, because okay, you can have 10 papers, you can have 2 Nature's publications, you can be extremely successful. But if during the application, I don't see why you want to make a PhD or why you want to make a master, and the clear reason why we have to give you the money, if that's not clearly stated, it's like, okay, why do you want the money? That's it. That's a big red flag for me. And the second point is, as it has been already discussed during the seminar, you have to promote yourself as the next leader of Canada. That's the reason why we're giving you the money. You are going to, that doesn't matter that, okay, you want to go to academia, to the private sector, to the government, doesn't matter. But we are building leaders for Canada in these applications. You are going to be the top notch of the Canadian professional leadership. So if you want to get this money, you have to clearly state that on that application.
Mm-hmm. Really selling yourself. Okay, Damian.
Yeah, I agree completely. Your application is no time to be humble. You need to be very careful about the things that you're going to say, because you have limited space, but you need to promote yourself as much as possible to make sure that they understand that you are the next researcher that is going to drive Canadian research forward. I'm going to keep hammering with the same thing. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen is bad recommendations. Sometimes I've seen applications that have really good cover letters. Then the PI's or the supervisor's recommendation letter is really good, but the second recommendation letter, just because I don't know if they picked someone at random or someone that was friends with the supervisor, but actually doesn't know you well, if that recommendation letter is not good, it will hurt you. Sometimes the difference between getting the application accepted or not, it's just half of a point. So you need to get this coherent, superb recommendation, application in progress. And so you need to get recommendations letters that people that know you. In the age of AI, I think you need to be very careful of using sentences in recommendations that are usually used all the time. I believe that a good recommendation letter will tell you how good the candidate is, but it also will be personal, which is not to be confused with being emotional. I don't want to hear about the feelings that drive. I need an objectively information about your ability to do research that is personal and someone that actually have seen you or know you so well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we're going to come back to reference letters in this regard. Continuing from the reviewer's perspective, what sections of applications do applicants typically underestimate? Damian, you want to start?
Sure, no problem. I understand that Marcelo talked a little bit about this, but I think the research proposal sometimes everybody understands it's true that this is not your research proposal, and sometimes because you've been working on that, you know a little bit too much about it, but sometimes it's really hard to make the reviewer understand what you're trying to research on in just one page. So even though you understand it very well and you know your research, you need to be able to make me understand what you're trying to accomplish, and why it's important again for the Canadian population. If you're studying cancer, tell me about how much if this specific type of cancer is very prevalent in the Canadian population, why it's important for you to study this. I think this is a little bit of nitpicking, but who you're gonna get as a reviewer depends on what section do you pick, and I think that's very important. You want to pick either cell biology, molecular biology, whatever is you're researching. You need to. There's a part of the applications that usually people probably go through really fast because they're trying to get everything out there. But it's important to pick the specific sections because that's going to determine who is going to review your research. And you want them to be as compatible as possible with what you're studying.
Okay. Marcelo, what sections of applications do applicants usually underestimate?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It's good that we have more health science and medicine panelists. I don't know if this is the same in engineering, but something that people underestimate a lot in the application of this in medicine is the sex and gender and the training environment. Sex and gender these days is extremely important. And actually there are some applications that you have a specific section for that they give you, let's say, half a page, and people use, okay, we're going to do male and female mouse. That's it. You have a half page in order to expose yourself and describe. You have already one page super limited for your project, and they are giving you half page in order to increase either more what are you going to do with your project related to sex and gender. And people usually write 1 line, 2 lines, when you can explain a lot about, you can talk a lot about the statistics, the process, why you're choosing only half male, why you are not choosing, why you're not taking any sex and gender consideration. That can be part of the topic. Mm-hmm. So at least in health science and medicine is extremely important this day. And the second part that people usually underestimate is the training environment. At least when I apply, and I think it's still in some applications, if not, can be good to add it, is why it's great to make that master or that PhD in that place. And in some applications, I know we're targeting in this seminar around the NSERC and CIHR, and been reviewing other funding agencies, especially Heart and Stroke and the Hearts Alliance and Heart Function Alliance, and it's really matter where you do your master and your PhD, because you can be amazingly great candidate, but if the place where you're going to do your master, your PhD doesn't have any funding, is useless. So most of these applications actually ask the applicant to state, or at least or the supervisor, okay, what's great about this place? Why do you want to do this PhD here? Because they have a great environment, they have a great funding, they have all the machines that you are going to need, etc. And that can be just one paragraph, but it explains a lot. Okay, this place is great. So those are my two points that sometimes people sometimes they are there and they have the space and they don't use them.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcelo. Is there anything you would like to add here, Alyssa? That for example, a section you underestimated when applying, or that you found really hard or difficult, or
I think, like, as someone who hadn't done a Canadian Common CV, I'm not sure if that's still included in the application, but that section really took a lot of time and the website was really finicky. So I would say, like, make sure that you're able to also maximize what you're saying with the very minimal character count for that, like, common CV, because describing the activity or, your contributions to the work within, like, those limited character counts, I think can help contribute to showing why you deserve this award.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, moving on with questions for Alyssa. So we're going now to the recipient perspective. What was your biggest challenge preparing your application, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that the biggest challenge for me was just the amount of work and the amount of time that you have to put into preparing an application of this nature. I was not expecting that it would almost feel like a second full-time job. Like I would go in and do work during the day, and I would come home and I would probably spend like 5 to 6 hours a night kind of working on this, like closer to scholarship time. And then also just like organizing all the sections that need to be included, people that you have to reach out to in terms of asking them for recommendations, also asking people for their help in reviewing your application, keeping all those things in line and trying to think about like how you can, or who's the next logical person to read your application to get a different perspective from. I think that just like takes a lot of organization. And in order to like overcome it, I had to like I wrote a lot of lists of things that I still needed to do when I was brainstorming, and then kind of checking them off one by one. But obviously, as things approached the deadline, I had to invest like more and more time into the application. And so I think just like taking everything like one step at a time, don't leave things too much to the last minute. I personally am like pretty bad at that. So I had to make sure that I set myself clear goals like far in advance in order to get the application complete and ready to my liking before the deadline.
Yeah, okay. So you're emphasizing that you need to start on time, and then of course to make all the different sections coherent, that too needs time and revising and finding people to help you creating that coherence across the application. Again, Alyssa, for you, what did you do specifically, or how did you approach your research proposal when you had limited publications or limited research experience? How did you compensate for that?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really have much of that experience. I did have a lot of research experience in the past. I'd done a master's previously and worked as a research assistant. So I did have some publications. I did have research experience, which I'm sure very much helped on my application. But coming from the perspective of helping others that I've seen in a similar situation, trying to prepare their scholarship applications without any of those things. I think just really focus on like talk to your supervisor a lot about preparing for the research proposal. Make sure you really understand what you're proposing to do and that it's feasible within the timeline that you're proposing for. And then also just kind of echoing in terms of the training environment and your training expectations document. I think that's really helpful in helping set you apart, because even if you haven't had a lot of research experience, that's the place that you can talk about why you still want to do this and what environment you're in that can help set you up for success in this situation. Because I think it's more of like the interaction between you and the environment working together in order to achieve this goal, because the panelists that are reading your application know that you're not going to be doing this project alone, that you're going to have a lot of help and support. And if you're in a lab that has done a lot of these techniques before, they will know that you're going to be capable of doing that under their guidance.
Mm-hmm. So kind of what I hear is that when the evidence of publications or research experience is not really there, then a very strong research project can compensate for that. So a very clear, strong, and the training environment that demonstrates the potential for good research and good output coming. So the weight on the research project and the training environment is going to be high or you must make sure that's very strong, because it's going to compensate for the lack of publications or the limited publications that you have at that point. Now, again, back to all panelists, talking a little bit about the reference letters. What makes a reference letter truly effective, and how should students guide their referees? Alyssa, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. When I was in my undergrad, I had a course where a prof was always talking to us about reference letters. He had like a whole session on it. And I feel like I really learned a lot in that point. He would always make sure to tell us, if you're writing an email to a prof to request a reference letter, asking them in person, ask them if they are willing to write you a strongly worded recommendation letter, like that they are a fully supportive, like strong language kind of reference letter to say that you are good for this role. Because sometimes when you ask people for reference letters, they'll write you a reference letter, but you don't necessarily know if it's going to be a good one. They'll just say, yeah, I'll write you a reference letter, even though they don't really know that much about you. And so I think by asking if they'll be fully supportive of you in this scholarship, in this reference letter is really helpful. And also providing like support of things that you maybe want them to highlight in your reference letter can be helpful. If you have two different people writing reference letters and one is really good on speaking on this one aspect of your training or your research goals, you can ask them to speak more on that. And if you have a second referee that can speak more on another part of you, I think that could be helpful as well.
Very good advice. Thank you very much. Marcelo.
Thank you very much. So related to reference letter, the first thing for everyone that's applying, ask for reference letters on time. And I think we already discussed about, or somebody mentioned about the timing for writing a grant. For writing a grant of 10 pages, it can take you up to 3 months. So do things on time. If you start sending emails for reference letter a week before the deadline, it will be bad for everyone. So if in general, a reference letter needs to be asked on time, at least a month and a half in advance. And my biggest recommendation is, I mean, most of the time they ask you for 2. One is supposed to be your supervisor, and the other one, ideally a person that knows you. Believe me, these panels, the panels that I've been participating at CIHR, they are so transversal, and there are so many people that it doesn't matter who is the person that's writing the letter. What's matter the most, it's what's in the letter. Because sometimes people think, oh, you know what, because I will ask the president of the university to write me a support letter. That's fine. That maybe is an important person. But if in the content of the letter is not strong enough, it doesn't make you feel like, oh my God, this person is the real candidate to receive this money, it's not worth it. It's much better to ask for a reference letter for a person that knows you and ask and give you a strong recommendation letter, doesn't matter the position in the hierarchy of the company, than an important person with a weak letter. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Damian.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for a while, right? I completely agree with Marcelo. It has to be, it doesn't matter where are they in the hierarchy of the university. You want someone that knows you, that can write a strong personal recommendation, give them time to write this recommendation. If they don't know you very well, maybe they can meet with you an hour, half an hour over Zoom, so you can tell them a little bit about what you want to do. You want people that they really want you to win this application. That you wanted them to be, for you to be successful, and you want to see that written on the letter, right? Another thing that is, I think Alyssa talked a little bit about, is that if you have any weaknesses in your CV or your cover letter or some things that you cannot plug in, if you talk to your recommendators, you can tell them about your weaknesses, and they can plug in those holes. They can tell that, oh, he doesn't have a publication yet, but he's working on this, blah, blah, blah. If you tell them about them, it sounds differently that they tell them about that. So try to talk to them and kind of brainstorm what would be the best recommendation, especially with your supervisor that is really interested in you getting that specific award, right?
Yeah. I think what we learned from what you're sharing here is that it would, first of all, you can control who you ask to write your reference letter. By preference, ask somebody who knows you, but then also you can guide them what they preferably would emphasize, so that the letters kind of focus on different aspects of your capacities and your skills to, again, create that more comprehensive picture of who you are and what you can deliver. And these are things that you can guide if you approach your referee early on and you help them a little bit to say, well, could you emphasize X, Y, Z, and could you emphasize A, B, C, and for what, and maybe help them a little bit in this process. Anything else on the reference letters that you would like to add? If not, then we have this one final tip that we would ask you. What would be your final tip for applicants submitting an application this year? Damian, want to start?
Sure. I think it's very hard to start, right? Find yourself into a white page, trying to write is always hard. Try to start with a strong outline. That always helps me when I'm writing a recommendation or I'm writing a grant or whatever. That always will help. We already talked about this. Start early. Start as soon as you can. Give your reference as much time as possible. Talk to them. I think also something that is very important is to see other applications that have been awarded. You can benchmark that against yours. Try to talk to people. If you don't know them, try to talk to your supervisor if they can get you a successful application. And then the idea is not to copy them, of course, right? You want them to adapt whatever they wrote into your own words, into what your strengths are, right? You just want to see how it looks like, so you can take something out of that and see, okay, this one got the award, then maybe I can do that.
Thank you very much. Very good tip. Having the opportunity to read successful applications, maybe through your supervisor who can ask permission from one of his or her former students if they can share. So excellent tip. Marcelo.
Yeah, those were really amazing tips. And actually, following up what Damian mentioned, when I was applying to my CIHR fellowship, I met not with my professor, my supervisor, he gave me good tips, but actually I met with 2 successful candidates. And I asked them directly, hey, can you share your application with me? Of course, confidentially. and I to read it. And actually, when I was ready with mine, I sent it to them to make some kind of a review process, and they provide me feedback and everything. So that was a really nice approach. And I want to mention what Damian already mentioned. So my biggest tip for the audience today is first time. You have to do this with time. Don't wait 1 month, because if you ask me, still 1 month can be extremely challenging. You have to think that you have to write your grant, plus all the other things you have to do, right? You have to, if you're at the university, you have to be studying, you have to work. So do this with time. And the second part, that's really flagged for me, I already mentioned during the answers, is that be clear that you are an outstanding candidate, and what's the real purpose, what you want the fellowship, why you want this grant, why you want to be a master, why you want to be a PhD. Sometimes people miss this part because they are already in the lab. For example, if they are transitioning from the master to PhD, okay, I'm here. So okay, then the natural next step is PhD. Okay, why is that natural? Why you want to be, and why you want to spend 5 years in the lab working so hard to get a PhD, and why you want this fellowship? That's something that needs to be clearly stated on the application.
Gosh, I hear a little bit of passion there. Your passion should come out. All right, Alyssa.
Yeah, I just want to, I think still again echo the timing thing. Also just make sure that you're aware of internal deadlines versus like CIHR deadlines is really important. Make sure you like all update that in your research net like as soon as possible, so you have like the accurate countdown. And then the other thing, I didn't speak on it as much, but kind of echoing what Damian said about like reviewing other people's applications, but also reaching out to people who have had previous awards. Even if you kind of like don't know them too well, the worst that they can say is no, in terms of reviewing your application. And when you get your application back after people have reviewed it, it's probably going to be really destroyed, and people are going to pick apart different things of what they would do differently. Try not to get like insulted or like feel bad about yourself for this like point of the application. Just like you don't have to take everything that they say, but use it as like a learning experience of what someone on the review panel might see when they review your application. So if you're feeling a little hurt by it, like take a step away and come back like with some fresh eyes and, you know, incorporate some of those changes that they had suggested that you make.
Yeah. Don't take it personal. This is about your project, and they want to help you make you create a stronger project, right? That's really the purpose of the review, or what the reviewer is doing for you. So great advice to have other people review your proposal, your application. Also, I think we heard it in the previous session a lot, the coherence between the different sections, which you may not always see, or it's obvious for you, but not for an external reader. So you could ask a reader, okay, is everything connected? Are all the dots connected? Do I emphasize the same thing? Do I use the same language throughout, and so forth? Okay, so I suggest that we go to our question period now. We have quite a large audience. So thank you so much already, panelists, for sharing your advice. But for the questions, participants, you can either raise your hand, open your camera, ask the question in, verbally, or ask your question in the chat. We have somebody monitoring the chat. So the panelists are ready to take any questions you may have, and we have time for questions, plenty. Billy. Okay. Go ahead. Billy, you're on mute. Billy, can you unmute yourself or write the question in the chat?
There's a question in the chat, Marijke. Maybe we
Okay.
start with that and then we
Yes.
come back to Billy.
Sure. Go ahead.
I have a question that if a student in the first year of their program and has not yet published any research paper, is it still worthwhile to apply for the scholarship?
Okay.
I
Alyssa.
can answer that.
Okay, Marcelo, go ahead.
Yeah, because people has been asking me that question before in other panels, and it's totally worth. Not having papers, that doesn't mean you cannot apply. You have to apply. There is probably somebody have heard this expression. The best way to know that you are not going to win the award is not applying. That's it. If you don't want to win the fellowship, that's it. Don't apply. You have to try. Second, it's known that master's and PhD productivity in papers is reduced and sometimes is none. I had met, when I was a president of the Postdoctoral Association, I had the fortune to meet different people from different parts of the university. And there are fields that is regular to publish once every year. And there are fields that is regular to publish one paper every 5 years. It's normal. So in case you don't have publications, don't worry about that. You have other skills that you can truly highlight in your application. If you are doing leadership roles, you are teaching, you are helping others, you are doing things outside university. Those kind of things show the leader you are. Remember, these applications are for doing research. Yes, that's for sure. But also these applications is to select the next leaders of Canada, that they're going to drive science forward. That can be in the academia, in the private sector, or in the government. So not having publications, that doesn't mean you cannot apply. You can apply. You have to. The thing is, you have to highlight your leadership skills that you have been showing in other activities.
Okay, thank you. Alyssa, did you want to add?
Well, I was just gonna say that if you do like prepare your application the 1 year and say you don't receive the award, next year when you go to reapply, now your CV is stronger, you can add that in, but you don't have to start from scratch in preparing your application. So it can only be helpful, like even if you're not really sure if you're gonna get it, always like throw your hat in the ring and then see what happens. And if it doesn't happen, try again next year, and now you don't have to do as much work, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can only make it better. Right.
Hi,
Billy, can you?
are you-
Oh, there you go.
You're able to hear me? Okay, I just couldn't figure out how to unmute myself on my phone.
Okay. Go ahead.
So my question was kind of how do I choose the right target audience in the way that I write? You know, am I writing with a very high expertise to show that I'm very confident and comfortable with the material, or should I try and make it more of a lay audience so that it's a little more accessible in terms of my research proposal and stuff like that?
Okay, good question. Damian, do you want to answer?
We're talking specifically about the research proposal, right?
Yeah, research proposal.
I would go as you need to be sure that you need to make sure that they understand that you understand what you're talking about. I would try to make it, you have one page, so you're never going to be able to get all what you know or about the research into that paper. So you need to be concise and you need to be effective. I would try to make it so you, again, what Marcelo said, they know that this is not your specific research, this is the research of the lab, of your supervisor. So make sure that they know that you understand the research, the importance of the research, again, for the Canadian population, and that your objectives make sense. I would say that's the most important thing. Sometimes you want to start, there's always going to be a layman sentence or paragraph that you can use to kind of express easily what you're trying to do, but try to make them understand that you know what you're talking about, basically, I would say.
Alyssa, you wanted to add something? Sorry.
Yes, I want to comment something in there. I want to let everybody know that these panels are super wide. So, for example, sometimes I have some colleagues in the panel that are epidemiologists that are part of medicine, and part of health science, that they have never been in a lab, because their work is basically doing statistical analysis, population analysis. And when they receive these applications that are super lab-based, like, oh, we knock out the mouse gene XYZ in order to remove the enzyme, they feel really lost. So my suggestion is to try to make the grant in lay language. They all know science, that's for sure. But you have to make sure that everybody understands it, because chances that your panel will be multidisciplinary and everybody needs to understand what you are proposing that has logic, that is highly important. So that's my recommendation.
And I can confirm that the previous panel said exactly the same thing, that the reviewers panel can be wide from, well, they are in medicine or in health sciences, but from different fields and may not specifically understand your domain. So write it that anybody can understand it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
We have a few questions in the chat, Marijke.
Yeah, go ahead.
Laura, I believe we addressed your question that was similar to the previous one. The other one is, I wanted to confirm something that was mentioned a few times, which is stating our future goals. This is both our research and personal goals. Should our research goal be for this project or extend beyond our current degree? How specific should we be about our personal goals?
Alyssa, do you want to, I see you nodding. Do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know from like a reviewer standpoint, but in applications that I've seen previous and in my own, I did make it like quite personal, because this is like the time that you can express to the reviewers on your panel, like who you are and why you matter, and why it's important for you to get this award. So I think including like personal and research goals are helpful. Like say why you want to do the PhD, as Marcelo has indicated multiple times, and then also kind of talk about like how this PhD is going to help you in your future goals. Like, do you want to go into government? Do you want to go into academia? Like where do your future goals end up, and like why does this PhD or master's matter for you to get to those goals? And if you also have a reason for why you're doing the PhD that's just beyond your future goals, if you had like something happen to you in the past that like really spurred you on this journey, I think you can include that as well, and it'll help you kind of like stand out from the other field of applicants.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments regarding this question, or?
Yeah, so I can comment on there. It's really important on the outcomes or goals of the fellowship. Of course, everybody is expecting from your research to get a publication, Congress presentations, and seminar, etc. That's expected. So probably you have to mention it. But something that is outstanding is when students have a clear goal path that during their masters or their PhDs, you know what? I will dedicate 15 or 10% of my time to build my professional skills. So for example, when I finish my PhD, besides turn into a great scientist, I'm turning into an amazing professional that can fit in the private sector, in the government, or in academia. Or if you have already decided a goal, okay, go for it. But if you're still trying to figure out what will be your goal in life in the future, yeah, you can clearly state that you are going to build your skills during the PhD or the master using fellowship with these other skills. Can be soft skills, can be training skills, can be teaching skills, can be social skills. But you are building your profile such as that you are going to turn an amazing professional and the next leader of Canada.
Yeah, how skill development is going to help you in your professional life later on. Question.
We had a question from a postdoctoral fellows looking to wrap up his postdoc or her postdoc in the USA. In terms of recommend later, should I request one from the US supervisor and my PhD supervisor versus my new postdoctoral supervisor in Ottawa? I haven't started yet.
Suggestions from the panels.
So I think that's kind of a difficult question because it's very personal to you. Again, I would emphasize that it's better to have someone that is that knows you well and it can write a personal recommendation. it would be great to have a supervisor, your new supervisor, to write you a recommendation letter. Meet with them. They probably have an interest in you getting this award. So try to talk to them as much as possible so they can write you the strongest recommendation letter possible. This is where you can emphasize your strengths because they actually want you to get it so much, right? So I cannot really tell you what to do. Try to see what is best in that sense, but I would try to get that supervisor a letter for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Do you have any recommendations for someone whose research could be submitted to more than one agency? How do you decide which is the better fit?
Can anybody answer this question?
I
Obviously,
can.
there is. Yeah, go ahead. Go
I-
ahead.
That's actually a really good question, because I have kind of a same doubts, because of what we do here in the lab. We do translational research. We work in engineering process that we translate into patients, devices, catheters, vascular grafts, etc. So actually our research fits in engineering and also fits in medicine. The answer for whoever asked the question is to try to fit the best one that looks more promising and easy to find. Or you can get the funding more easy, because for example, in engineering, I assume that they would love to hear more engineering stuff. So if your background is more stronger in that, offer it. But if your final application includes, I'm giving an example for myself, includes engineering, but the outcome of the medicine and the health science point of view is stronger, okay, you have to go for CIHR.
Yeah. So that's a good comparison there. I personally have more experience between CIHR and SHRC. I mean, as soon as we start focusing on health, SHRC is not going to accept it. They're gonna want that, see that in CIHR. So it's really important to target, to make sure what the precise goal of the project is, to determine whether you go to this agency or the other agency. Christine, you wanted to add?
I believe they haven't changed because they changed the program this year. There was a section on the agency website answering that question, like, how to choose. So you might want to look carefully in the instruction, and I'm pretty sure they kept that because it's very important. That might be helpful to go and read on how the agency advise you to find a better fit. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. We have time for one or two more
few
questions.
questions. Okay. Second, when talking about where you have selected to pursue your work, is it appropriate to talk about who you are doing the work with? Example, selecting a supervisor and a TAC for their experience in your area of interest.
Mm-hmm. Who wants to answer? We've kind of addressed this already, but who wants to please respond?
I can go. Yeah, I think it's important to state again, like why you're doing your PhD with these specific people and the guidance that you can get along the way. It's like a perfect example in your training expectations, talking about like the lab members, like what the makeup of your lab is, what your supervisor is really good at, and kind of why you picked them and what you can learn from them. And then if you have like specific TAC members that you also are, bringing onto the project in order to assist you with like a specific part, you can say like, I'm going to get guidance from this person who has an expertise in this. And that's going to, help me with this part of my project.
Yeah. Yeah. The training environment is critical. And I think we've emphasized that before. Yes. Make it very clear how that training environment helps you attaining your goals. Other question?
Yes, we have few, so we probably won't be able to address all of them, but how does one convey a strong project proposal that may be over 4 years time frame into one page? The depth of experimental framework becomes so superficial.
Who wants to take this one?
I can speak on it a little bit. Like, I think you just need to be very succinct of what you're trying to convey. Like, what are the most important parts? be like in depth, but also not like you want to explain the entire framework of it or focus on like 3 specific goals. Like typical research proposal will have your 3 aims. So pick like 3 of your most important goals that you want to get across and then speak a little bit on each of them, give a broad introduction, and then really hammer home at the end why your research matters and why it should be funded.
Okay. What do you think, Christine? Time for one more?
One more question.
Yeah.
When writing a scholarship proposal, should the focus be mainly on the current research project, or is it also recommended to include details about previous research progress and experiences?
Good question. Who wants to go?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. When writing a scholarship proposal, should the focus be mainly on the current research project, or is it also recommended to include details about previous research projects and experiences?
No, it's been very important to talk about your whole research, what you have done in the past and how it has led you into the future. I think that's very important. I don't know how detailed you want to be, but you want to tell them about your career path and you want to tell them, I did this, I learned that, this drove me to this, and this is why I want to pursue that. So make it so it's a story about why you want to pursue research, why it's important, this research, why it's important to you. Those things matter a lot.
Okay. All right. I think for the sake of time, I know we have tons of other questions, Christine. We will look over them and we will see if we can come up with something to answer them. We'll figure that out from a technological standpoint. For now, I really want to thank our panelists for sharing your thoughts. I want to thank the participants for being here and asking your questions. Just as a reminder, the internal deadlines for CIHR for PhD students is September 24, and for the master students will be December 1. So those are the internal deadlines to keep in mind. So once again, thank you for being with us, and we wish you good luck with your applications and wish you lots of success. Thank you very much.